So again, this is a 45-year-old female who came to us with lung, chest, and digestive issues that she was previously aware of before doing the voice analysis report. So this is her voice analysis report and how it is framed for her to be able to do stuff at home.
Yeah, so we're going to just walk through essentially as if you're the patient, right? In this case, so we're going to be explaining a lot of things. Oops. Yeah. There we go. All right. So as you can all see, if you have your report in front of you, you'll have an executive summary at the very top, and this is the same for everyone. This is just a general overview of what the report is all about and how things maneuver. Then the very next thing that you'll see is a summary of results. Now on our page, we have a bunch of highlighted words. These highlighted words are all things that are unique to this report and this person and their voice analysis. So you'll see other things, right? So you'll see that the first pillar of health to support is something else, right? It could be oxygenation, which if it is, then this is going to speak right into your alley. If it's not, it could be hydration, it could be emotions, it could be mouth, it could be nutrition. So there's a lot of other things, right? There's 5 different pillars. And then there's a lot of different systems that we do. So we have 10 different systems. So that's bullet number 2, right? Where it says on ours, the first system to support is the immune system. So the immune, right? That could be different for you guys. Now, the other thing that's dynamic is it's going to also show if it's physical or emotional, right? So this is telling us whether or not it is a physical thing or an emotional thing, and how things can maneuver for you. Sorry, let me actually, I don't have a way. So with that said, the other dynamic parts are in part A and part B, right? So part B shows on ours, knees, thymus, and lymphatic. So that's a major thing. So it's going to always give you 2 or 3 different organs or systems that are related and influencing that primary thing. So in this example, it shows pH environment for both. It shows it for number 3 and number 4. So number 4 is static. That means that it's always going to show the pH environment, always. And it might be physical or emotional or both. But here, when it shows up 2 times, that means you really want to pay attention to it and create a way to start alkalinizing the body immediately. So that's what you're going to want to do. So this is just an example, but yours will be different on what you're looking at. So on page 3, on the next page, on page 2 is a key. So this is a rough key, goes from 0% to 100%. A lot of the scores will go from 0 to 100, and essentially 0 is not good, 100% is really good, but 100% is perfect. So I want you to understand that this test is a little different than a lot of others in the way that 50% or less is really what we're wanting to look at. 50% or higher is pretty good. And then if you're 70% or higher on anything, then you're in really great shape. Good. Because 100% really is, we made it that's like perfect. That means you would have to be pristine. You would have to have no heavy metals in your body. I mean, you would have to be, it's incapable of pretty much reaching 100%. Not on everything, but it's extremely hard to reach that amount. And we made it that way so that we can really give a true instance of like how good or how bad your health might be in different areas. Again, this is showing the emotional versus the physical factors, right? So these are the different things that make up emotional factors. These are things for you to be able to check in with yourself. When emotion comes up for some system or organ, then you can look at this list and say, is it intellectual, right? Is it thought patterns? Is it my emotional stress? Is it some behavior that I'm doing? A habit. Break. Yes. And then is it spiritual, right? Is it, is there some kind of conflict or some kind of thing that's going on internally with yourself? Then there's the physical factors that obviously you wouldn't really be able to judge, but we wanted to really explain how we're defining physical factors. And then the last thing is acute and chronic. So acute is obviously going to be dealing more with inflammation and more with things that are more recent. Chronic is long-term imbalances, and you're dealing with more of a disease state. But don't get alarmed when you see chronic, unless you see, chronic and you see a very, very low score. Again, this is something to just pay attention to. This is not oh yeah, this is looking 5 to 7 years in advance. This is looking at a culmination of things that has happened to you up until this point. Yeah. So here are the pillars.
And think of the pillars like foundations of health. The pillars are these 5 things right down here. It's oxygenation, hydration, mouth, nutrition, and emotions. And we chose these as pillars because each one of them play a critical role in how the entire body is functioning.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. So as you can see, right, the lowest percentage, and again, yours might be different, the lowest percentage will always be chosen as the thing in red.
Yeah.
Always. Now, if you have 2 percentages, let's just say there was 2 percentages here that were 46%. The one in red happens to just be a little bit more worse off than the other one. That's why it was chosen. There's a lot of things in the back end that show that the back end stuff will be a little bit more worse off than the front stuff. So because it's going to show that end game, you'll see that if you have 2 of the same percentages, but one is red and one isn't, we need to pick one for you to focus on for right now. But you can focus on both, and there's a lot of resources at the end of this that will show you what you can really focus on.
And in this instance, for example, this is a good example of one where we would focus on 2 pillars at the same time, because under oxygenation, the associated organ that's being impacted for this individual is thyroid gland. And you'll notice that thyroid gland also came up under nutrition. So that gives us 2 opportunities to improve the function of the thyroid gland just by focusing on oxygenating the body a little bit better and increasing the nutrition a little bit better.
Yeah. So that's another great catch. So it's not just percentages, but if you see organs in multiple pillars, no matter what, that organ is also something that you're going to want to support. Mm-hmm. So then you'll notice that right below the pillars, right, is going to be steps for you to improve your oxygenation immediately, right? We want to provide
whichever pillar comes up for you.
Whichever pillar comes up. So in this case, it's oxygenation. So these are the steps that we would recommend doing that you can do at home. And these work. We've done pre and post testing on this stuff. It does make a difference. So these small steps can make a very big difference for yourself. The next thing, the next page is Masters of Function. This will list the 2 most needed of support systems, right? Like I said before, there's 10 different systems. This is going to list your top 2 and break down the physical and the emotional components to it on percentage wise. Again, everything highlighted is going to be dynamic. This might be different depending on what's going on for you. And the other cool thing is we also have a bunch of resources. So for example, for immune system, you can click on this resource and click here, and it'll take you to a resource to start improving the immune system and understanding the immune system immediately. Mm-hmm. And we're building new resources all the time. So this is something that is always going to be changing and growing.
And it'll always be updated with the latest and greatest information as much as we can. Yeah, we're always evolving these resources for you guys as we learn more, because once we learn something new, we're excited to teach it. Yeah. And this is an opportunity for us to teach you those things.
Yeah. So here again, it gives you pH environment as the second system that's most critical to start improving. And there's a lot of great ways, again, to do this. Beeler's broth is great for improving the acidity of the body. And again, you can click on this resource and it'll take you to something that's going to help improve that. The last thing to really pay attention to on this page is at the very bottom where it lists the organ that's affecting the most number of systems. Mm-hmm. So in this case, the heart is affecting the circulatory and respiratory. And then again, there's another great resource that's going to get you started down the path of improving this immediately. So there's a lot of resources and a lot of information. This is for you to geek out. This is the next page for you to geek out. And so if you're doing multiple tests, or if you're like doing a pre-post thing, or let's just say you're doing 30 days of some kind of therapy, then you can retest and you can see the changes and what it actually affects. So this is really to like, you know, kind of geek out and have fun and see what changes over time. And again, here's all the different systems. It's a lot of stuff.
So then the very last page is really helpful for, again, kind of a side-by-side comparison to see how your body is shifting and changing and what's improving and what might need a little bit more support at this time. And again, anything 50% or greater, we don't really need to pay attention to at the moment because it's not the area that needs the most support. Again, the highlighted area is the part that's going to be dynamic. The organs that are listed on this page will always stay the same. And you'll notice that it'll say if there's a physical or an emotional indication or both. Sometimes it's both. And that just means that you're going to be able to make a greater impact positively for your body and how that area of your body is working if you focus on physical when it says physical or emotional when it says emotional. An example of that I've given is that I was working with an individual who had really concerning liver function. And they tried all kinds of things on the physical side to improve the liver. They took supplements, they did teas, they got their numbers measured, all kinds of different stuff. But when we ran the voice report, it was indicated that what was actually going on in the liver was emotional. So all I had her do was put her hand over her liver and pray every single day to improve that liver function. And within 2 weeks, her liver numbers came back up for the first time in 2 years because it wasn't a physical imbalance. It was an emotional imbalance that was causing functional issues in the liver. So emotions can get stuck in certain places. And that's another reason why we feel it's so important to measure it, is so we can know what will move the needle for you the most. And then sometimes you'll also see it'll say something is significant or strong. That just means that it is much more on the emotional side or on the physical side than it would be otherwise. So, for example, in this example, the spleen is 33% and it's significantly emotional. Spleen on the emotional side represents repetitive thought patterns or obsessively focusing on the same thing over and over and over again that causes you to eventually get into an emotional rut. So that would be something for that individual to examine and kind of take a step back and think, okay, is there an area where my thoughts get stuck pretty often and I feel myself going in a loop? Because that would be the easiest way to address the spleen.
And then at the very bottom, you see click here for full resources, and it's a giant list. We have maybe like 40, give or take, resources now. And we're building more every week and every month. And so we're going to just start breaking down all the different organs and systems and really go into town on creating a lot of content for you guys, so that if you want to really dive into some specific organ that wasn't listed in the system or as the most impactful organ or on the pillar, then you can really go down that dance and go down that rabbit hole of really learning to support that specific organ. Yeah.
And that's our emotion pillar example. Or sorry,
Okay.
our oxygenation. Wow. Our oxygenation pillar example. I'm already thinking of our next stuff.
Yeah. So we're going to stop recording.